You're listening to The Rich Life Revolution with me, Michelle Cooper. My mission is to empower you to step into your next level of wealthy. You'll hear all the deets, a little bit of inspiration, and real life takeaways so that you can create your own rich life revolution. Let's dig in. Welcome to the Rich Life Revolution podcast. I am your host, Michelle Cooper, and today we're getting into the vibe of love. Today's episode, number 67, is just with me, all by myself, and I'm going to be dropping gold. All about love is the vibe, making every move with heart. So let's dive in. Let's just talk about what it means to make love the goal, right? Now, this is something that came to me as part of a process that I did with an incredible therapist, coach, healer, friend of mine named Darcy Bailey. She has a service. She's certified in a modality called heart healing. And when I went into this with her, I was really surprised at what came up for me, right? Things that I was completely unaware of consciously. And in the follow-up to these sessions with Darcy, I had a lot of, I guess, what we'll call downloads around this concept of love and love being the goal. And the clear message that I got from the universe, might be source, God, for you, whatever it is. For me, it's the universe. The clear message I got is, Michelle, love is the goal. So let's talk about what it means to make love the goal and how this kind of plays out in our everyday life. So the download that I got was love is always the goal. It's the highest frequency, and it is the goal in all aspects of our lives. And it is an incredible focus for manifestation. So what does that mean? Well, success isn't just about career achievements. It's not just about money. It's not just about status. At the very core, it's about fostering love in all aspects of our life. Love can become a mindset, right? We can explore how adopting love as the primary goal shapes our thoughts, our actions, and our decisions. When we make decisions from a place of love, we might make different decisions. I think that we can all agree that if some people in the world make decisions from a place of love rather than power or ego, we might be living in a different world. I think it's important here to touch on the difference or the concept of universal love versus romantic love, because love isn't just romantic. Love to me means love for ourselves, love for our work, for our community, love for the world around us, love for everything that is in our lived experience. And when we come at our desires, how we want to experience our life from the energy of love, that high frequency, you will, I promise you, experience a different lived experience. Now, this isn't natural for a lot of people. We live in a society that promotes self-loathing and self-criticism and, not having a lot of compassion for ourselves. So this is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum there. And it can take some work. And it might just sound like gobbledygook to you right now, to be honest. There was a time in my life where I was like, yeah, whatever. But I did some work around this, unintentional work, because it just kind of happened. I didn't kind of go into this work in my life from a place of like, okay, I'm going to make love the goal. No, the work I was doing was to uncover what was holding me back. And the message I got was love is always the goal. So self-love is the foundation. It all starts with you. right? So think about how your level of self-acceptance, self-compassion, and taking care of your well-being. Many of my listeners are women, and we are notorious for putting everybody ahead of ourselves. And that's just not going to work long term, right? I promise you, there will be a time where you're going to break down if you just prioritize everybody else over yourself. If you are not in acceptance of your true self, and if you don't have compassion for yourself. Of course, the ripple effect here is that when you love yourself, you're able to show up better for others in your relationships. You're able to show up better in your business, in your career, and, pretty much in your life, right? It's like throwing a stone into the pond. There's the ripples that happen from doing the work. Now, I know for myself in doing the heart healing sessions, there was a significant shift for me because I realized that I had some betrayal issues around women in my life. And I even recognized later that this manifested itself in me being a little aloof or distant in my relationship with my daughters. And when I started healing this part of me and focusing on love being the goal, those relationships changed. And that's the ripple effect, right? We can also look at this concept of perfectionism and release that, right? So letting go of self-criticism and letting go of the idea that things need to be perfect allows love to grow within us. So if you've listened to me for a while, you'll know that the natural world, nature is something that I often look to for inspiration and for validation in my thinking process, right? In my thoughts and my ideas. And if you think about perfectionism, is anything actually perfect in the natural world? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a perfect tree, a perfect blade of grass, a perfect river? No, these things, they grow probably quite imperfectly. I don't know if you've ever tried to grow grass. I have several times. It never all grows at the same rate or the same color or the same thickness. It's perfectly imperfect, right? So we can let go of that perfectionism because that's a judgment on ourself. That's an unrealistic expectation that we are setting for ourselves that doesn't actually exist. Like nothing is perfect. No one is perfect. It's a concept that someone, I don't know who, created, I think, to keep control of people probably. Another important piece is around having boundaries. So what we are no longer willing to tolerate and what situations or relationships are not healthy for us. So in episode 65, I'll put the link in the show notes. I talk about boundaries a lot, and it is something that I had to get very good with, right? I did not have boundaries, to be perfectly honest. I had a complete lack of boundaries with people in my life. And I had to get clear on what I was no longer willing to tolerate in relationships and in situations, and get very clear on what was not healthy for me. It might be that it's okay for some people, but for me, it's not healthy. So here's an example for you. For me and how I relate to the world, it's not healthy for me to participate in social situations that the center of the situation is food. I'm working on my relationship with food, and I can overeat and overindulge, and then I don't feel well, and it becomes a downward spiral for me. And so I don't do things that put me in a situation where the whole focus is food. So I wouldn't call myself a foodie. I love food, absolutely. But I do know for me that if the whole focus of an activity is food, that's not something that's healthy for me. It's not something that I don't want to participate in. It's just that for me, where I'm at right now, it's not healthy. And so I can say no for now. It doesn't mean I'll always be that way. Maybe someday I will be okay with that. But for me right now, that's just not a good place for me to put myself. That could translate out into other things that are not healthy. In my past, in my 20s, situations that were not healthy for me involved drugs and alcohol. And I physically left the country I lived in because I needed to get out of that situation. And I didn't know how else to get out of it at the time. And so that was a decision I made. And I'm glad I made that, because when your lifestyle revolves around drugs and alcohol and like, where's the next party? And you move to a different country, it can be hard to find drugs, to be honest. It's usually not hard to find alcohol, but there's also the factor of you don't know the landscape, right? You don't know the lay of the land. So you maybe aren't as willing to kind of just let go and do whatever. Not saying that's a solution for everybody, but for me at the time, it was a great move to make, right? So these are decisions we make out of self-love, right? Because it all starts with you. Now, if we think about loving what we do and how we spend our time, right? Specifically when we're making money, that's another really important aspect. The love of business and career and leadership in those areas is a really important aspect of how we experience our lived experience, right? Not doing things because we can do them, only doing what actually feels exciting or inspiring naturally, what gives us energy, not what sucks our energy. It doesn't drain our energy. Highlighting really the importance of leading with empathy, with kindness, and with respect. That's what's, technically called heart-centered leadership. And that has helped me build a business with incredibly loyal team members, because there is a lot of empathy, compassion, kindness, and respect. And it's mutual. We want to love the mission we're on. We've all got a mission. Whether you have your own business, you work for somebody else, or you stay at home mom, or I don't know, independently wealthy, it doesn't matter. Love your mission, right? Falling in love with your business or your career or your life's work creates a sense of purpose and joy. So if you're doing something that you would say you're not in love with, it's time to change. So I had this conversation with a dear, dear friend of mine who worked in the finance industry, and in all transparency is my accountant. And she said, I just don't think that I'm going to be in finance in the future. Now, that's a really big statement to make when that's been your career. That's been your whole life. And now you're in your 40s, right? So it's scary. I was like, oh my God, really? Like, that's huge. But so incredibly brave and courageous to even just say that out loud. Okay, we don't have to know what we're going to do, but we do need to identify, this doesn't feel like I'm in love with this career, this business, this life work. And so when we can admit to that, we can have awareness of that, other doors will open, right? Other opportunities will fall on our path. And then, of course, there's aspect of fostering love through mutual respect and trust in your business relationships. So this might be your team, it might be your client, it could be your coworkers, right? Mutual respect and trust is the foundation of solid relationships in our business and our careers. I know I talk to my team about this all the time. It's their job to build trust with our clients. And we do this fun exercise called the trust bucket, where we have a bucket and we have some water. And if somebody has just come into our business, there's only a little bit of water in that bucket. if somebody's been with us for a long time, there's quite a bit of water usually. And then if something happens, like say something bad happens, we screw up. If there's no water in the bucket or very little, then you're taking away some trust. So you're taking away some water, and you might not have any left, or you might have very, very little left, right? If you have a lot of trust built, so there's a lot of water in the bucket and something bad happens and you take a little bit away, it doesn't affect the relationship as significantly. You still might need to earn back that trust, and you might need to make it right for sure, but it's not as devastating if you haven't already built that mutual respect and that trust in that relationship. So let's talk about how we spend our time and who we spend that time with, because love in relationships goes beyond romance, right? Having boundaries with toxic people and removing people who aren't supporting our shift or our rise is a really important piece. So identifying for you if somebody is toxic in your life, why, how does that show up, and creating boundaries, or even completely removing them from your experience or your life is an important step to take. Not easy at all. I did this recently with a family member, and it's still not easy to navigate. Now, I didn't make this big announcement like, I'm putting in a boundary and, you can't talk to me like this anymore and you can't do this. I'm not saying it's wrong to do that, but that's not what I did. I just established it's not okay for this person to talk to me in this way, and I'm not going to engage in it anymore. And what happens is the relationship just fell away. That person is still part of my family. I still will see them. I still sometimes hear from them, but they got pretty aware that I wasn't going to engage in this kind of activity anymore, right? When we set loving intentions, they strengthen the connections that we have with family and friends. And when we put our energy into those relationships, those loving relationships, it multiplies, right? It expands, right? When we take our energy away from toxic relationships, they collapse, right? They contract. It's just a natural force that's out there in the world. So remember that boundaries are an act of love, and they protect both yourself and others. And often boundaries actually empower other people. Like they empower the other person to be resourceful, right? Or to seek another form of support, right? So again, there is a episode 65, which I talk about creating boundaries. Of course, you're going to have situations in your life where you should probably consider forgiveness, right? Forgiveness is very important in maintaining that energy of love, even through challenges. So, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but failing to forgive only damages you. It doesn't change the energy of the other person, right? So if we're mad at somebody, we hold the energy of mad. That person might not even know we're mad at them, right? We're holding that low vibrational energy of being angry at someone. And unless we are willing to forgive and let go, we're going to keep that energy, that frequency within us, which is going to spoil your energy, your frequency of love, right? And this isn't easy. Like, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, just forgive and it's an easy process. It's not easy. Sometimes people have done really crappy things to us, and forgiving them is really hard. But I promise you, they're not losing sleep over it. You are, right? They're not lying in bed having the same conversation over and over again, right? In their head. They're not composing an email you would send to them. They're not thinking about all the ways that this person has let you down, right? That they've let you down. Like, they're not engaged in this at all. Only you are. And you can release that through forgiveness. Again, not easy. You may need some support on this, but it can start with the simple step of identifying, who do I need to forgive? I went through this, and you don't even need to tell the person you forgive them. This is an internal job. When we experience difficult times, and we all experience difficult times in our life, love is an anchor. So love is a guiding light when life gets tough. And coming back to love can provide clarity. It can provide strength and resilience, right? There are tough times out there that we face. And when we lean into the energy of love and say, what's the most loving next step I can take? We will be taking a different step than if we chose fear, right? Making decisions out of love rather than fear or scarcity absolutely leads to better outcomes. I see this in my life. I see this with my clients. I see this all the time, right? And an important piece of that is gratitude. So gratitude is as an expression of love, and incorporating the practice of gratitude helps us stay grounded in love even during these challenging times, right? So it can be hard to be grateful for a really crappy situation or really challenging time in our life, but is there a silver lining, right? So recently, to me recording this, I'm recording it in October. In September, I had a surgery, pretty significant surgery that was planned. This is not like an unplanned or emergency or anything. This was planned surgery. It was a repair and adjustment and stuff. And even though the doctor told me the recovery was 4 to 6 weeks, I seemed to think I was some kind of superwoman and would be fine the following week. Well, I wasn't. And in fact, I ended up in the emergency room the night of the surgery because, of course, in today's world, they send you home the same day as surgery. And I had a bit of a situation that happened and ended up in the emergency room. And the recovery was horrendous. Honestly, this is one of the hardest things I've ever recovered from, and I've had 3 children. It was way harder than recovering from childbirth, which I thought was the hardest thing ever. And I regretted the surgery. Like, this was a difficult time for me. Those first couple of weeks was really, really hard. And I couldn't move. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't roll over. I could hardly walk. It was just awful. However, I focused in on gratitude, right? What could I be grateful for today? Right? Just one thing in the morning. Well, I got some sleep. I slept a little bit better last night than the night before. I was able to get up and go to the bathroom by myself. I feel a bit stronger today. And then during the day, I tried to come up with something I was grateful for because I felt like I was just sitting there watching mindless TV. Well, I'm grateful that I have an iPad and I can lie in bed and watch TV on an iPad. I'm grateful that there's some really interesting shows on TV. And then in the evening, I focused on, okay, well, what am I grateful for? What happened today that I can celebrate? What can I be grateful for today? Right? My kids are able to support me. My kids all live at home with me and they're able to help me. I was able to have a shower today. These little things that happen when we're faced with difficult and challenging times. So we can make love a daily practice. How do we do that? Well, small acts of kindness, right? Show love in small, meaningful ways, whether that's a smile, kind words, an act of service, holding a door open for somebody, picking up something on the floor for someone, giving somebody $1 because they look like they could use a cup of coffee. Like, very small acts of kindness can go a long way. Paying for somebody behind you in the drive-through, like small acts of kindness, and random, right? This distributes the frequency of love. Right? Being very mindful about our communication. So choosing our words with love and care, it improves our interaction with others. Everyone, family, friends, coworkers, whatever, clients. Choosing those words with love and care will create a different conversation. And then setting a loving intention every day, no matter what's on your agenda. So this is something I do in the morning. As I prepare for my day, what's my intention today? And I focus on it being a loving intention. Now, it might be as simple as I'm going to be compassionate to myself today because I've got a busy day, right? I'm going to eat good food today because I need the energy, right? We want to love what we put in and on our body, right? It's an integral part of self-care. Eating the good food off of the good china, right? Like, what are we waiting for? One of my family members has a box of good china sitting in my garage. And I'm like, what is the purpose of this? Like, well, that's my good china. I'm like, but why wouldn't you just use it now? Well, it's my good china. But it's doing nothing sitting in my garage. Why is it here? What if somebody else could enjoy it, right? And eating the good food now. Splurging on blackberries when blackberries aren't in season is a good food choice, right? Using the expensive body oil or lotion you bought right now, instead of waiting for this fancy night out or this thing that's you think is going to happen one day. What we put in and on our body matters, and do it now. What are you waiting for? And then let go. Release the things you've been holding on to because you paid money for them, and so you should keep it or you should use it. If you don't like that itchy sweater, get rid of it. Let it go. You don't have to sell it. You could, but you don't have to, because you know what? Energetically, it belongs to somebody else anyways. If it was yours, you wouldn't find it itchy. Okay. So releasing, letting go of clothing that doesn't fit or things that are broken that one day you think you're going to fix, or, lipstick that is not your color anymore. There was a time where I wore red lipstick. I don't wear red lipstick anymore. I found that I had a whole bunch of red lipstick in my makeup drawer. I'll just let it go. Let it go. Right? Energetically, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to somebody else. Now, am I giving away red lipstick? No, no one's going to take a used lipstick. But I have let go of and released a lot of stuff. So that brings us to the concept of materialism and the impact of choosing love in a materialistic world, right? Society often prioritizes material achievements, and choosing love brings a deeper fulfillment of those achievements, right? So it goes beyond materialism. It goes beyond what we have, the fancy house or the car or the designer clothes, right? When we choose love, now it doesn't mean you might really love that Louis Vuitton bag, and that's awesome, right? But if you're buying the bag because you think you should have the bag, but you don't really love it, then it's not aligned, right? There's a dissonant energy there. Choosing things from the place of love brings a deeper fulfillment and a more robust experience. Love and meaningful connections are a true form of wealth. A lot of people will say your net worth is in your network, right? It's in your relationships. I personally think that, health is your wealth and your relationships are your wealth. And so looking at how you define wealth, is it just the money in the bank? Is it, is it just the dollars and cents? I think it's more the impact, right? Is it just the revenue that your business makes? I would say it's more the impact that your business makes. Is it just your bank account balance? Absolutely not. My network of people are truly a really big component of my wealth because they're there for me. If I need something, I can call on them. They will be there. They might not have the exact resource, but they will find something for me. There will be someone, right, that can help, right? And then when we lead a love-centered life, it improves our overall mental and emotional well-being. This is a proven scientific fact, okay? Love-centered life improves your mental and emotional well-being. There's nothing more destroying of your mental and emotional well-being than hatred, anger, frustration. Those are such a low frequency and will eat away at your mental and emotional well-being. So, the energy of love directly correlates to manifestation. Of course, we all know the law of attraction. Love is the highest frequency emotion that there is, and it attracts more positivity and more abundance. When you love what you already have and you appreciate and love what is right now, instead of constantly chasing what's next, you will see more. Right? You will see abundance in your life. You will see the expansion of what you desire, right? Loving energy can create shifts in relationships, in your business, and in your life. And this is the power of manifesting through love. When we love how we experience our life, our day-to-day routine, our travel experiences, our sleep, our rest time, our food, time we spend with friends and family, and our significant people in our lives, in our business, with our clients, even just walking down the road. How we experience life is equally as important as to what we experience in life. We can all walk through an airport and be in a rush to get somewhere. But when you are smiling at people, when you acknowledge people, when you say hello or excuse me, or, you make a connection with somebody, that changes the experience. We've all seen that, witnessed it, or actually participated in it. So love isn't always easy though, right? There can be challenges around choosing love. And I want to acknowledge that choosing love can be hard or challenging, especially when dealing with difficult people or situations. This is not an easy thing to do if somebody is prickly, as I like to call it, right? There's this energy of love and acceptance that you need to adopt even when people aren't willing to kind of go along for the ride with you. Think about, for you, how past experiences have blocked love, or fear has blocked love for you. That could be a love relationship. It could be a family or friend relationship. It could be a career move or a business move or working with a client or coaching a team member. When we are resistant to acting from a place of love, then we create blocks. And we can release these blocks by regrounding in that love energy, right? Which overcomes the resistance. There's all kinds of imperfect situations that happen in our world and in our lives. And we can find ways to choose love even when the circumstances are less than ideal, right? And as I said, this isn't easy. If somebody is attacking you, it can be really, really challenging to embody the energy of love and not attack back, right? But it would change the situation. It'll change the outcome. It's hard to argue. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but it's hard to argue with somebody who's not willing to argue with you. Like, you can't, right? You can't fight somebody who's not willing to fight you. And I think it's interesting. Like, it could just be something that you experiment with. I wonder what would happen if I didn't argue back. Not from a place of complacency, but from an energy of love. What's the most loving thing I could do right now? Now, love is a legacy. It leaves a legacy. And our actions today can leave behind a ripple of love for future generations. We all know, or, most of us have that person in our life that showed us an incredible amount of love. And we still carry that energy with us today. When we think about them, we might smile. When we have fond memories of those people, when we think about how they encouraged us and loved us and were a safe space for us, it shifts our energy and our emotional well-being, right? So it does leave a ripple behind and around you, and it will shift the experience of future generations. When you make love the goal, you positively impact communities and the world at large. That's, again, scientifically proven stat. I don't know what the percentage is, but I've seen it. It is a very different world we live in when we make love the goal. So I want to invite you to ask, what would love do? In any situation, good, bad, easy, hard, what would love do? I think it's really important to use this question as a guiding principle. So if you take any of this away today, and if something jumped out at you, I'd love to hear from you. I would love for you to share this episode with people that you think it will be impactful for, because when we build meaningful, insightful, loving relationships, we are changing the world. And if this episode inspires you to cultivate love in every area of your life, then I'm doing my job, right? Whether that's personal growth, relationship, business, and wherever. There's great actionable takeaways in today's episode. And of course, if you've got feedback or you want to share your story or how this impacted you, you can always reach out to me on social media at Michelle B. Cooper on all the profiles. And our next episode next week is my interview with Delene Higgins. Delene was able to retire at 50 and lived a life that many people would be envious of. She reached her dreams. She then went on to become a financial coach, and she helps other people reach their dreams. This episode is very inspirational. She loves working with Gen Xers, helping them ditch debt, save for retirement, and really loves to work with people on making their dreams a reality. In a world where most people feel very unprepared about retirement, Delene believes it's never too late to get started, and I loved recording this interview with her. So check us out next week for that episode with Delene. Have an amazing day. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you got at least one gold nugget today. Be sure to grab your copy of the Rich Life Revolution workbook to help you set the foundation for your next level of wealthy. Get it now at richliferevolution.ca, and I'll see you later.